mobs from the Mounts of Mayhem drop.
Or one new mount if you're playing on Bedrock because they forgot to actually make the Husk Camel spawn, but the reason they did this was...
Well, we wanted to make visits to the desert a bit more interesting.
And so, do you know what would be really cool? Adding frozen zombie polar bears ridden by not just the strays, but also by a brand new type of frozen zombie. This sounds like a great idea and actually is backed up not just by this mob existing in Minecraft Dungeons, but also by it being added to a recent Vibrant Visuals map that Minecraft themselves authored on the marketplace. This is fascinating and raises the question of, are more mob variants coming? And the answer certainly looks like yes, which is great news for people like Scoopsky Cat. However, it raises a broader question about Minecraft adding more mounts, and I intend to answer those questions as well as those about Notch coming directly at me that a lot of people have been asking, as well as everything else that I want to go into in today's Q&A Saturday. I hope you all enjoy it, but let's get started by talking about Jeb's opinion on adding mob variants, because it was just a few years ago that he came out and said,
"We try to avoid adding different variations of existing mobs. We want to create unique ones."
This definitely was Jeb's stance in 2020, but somewhere in the last couple of years it seems to have changed, and this is very clear not just from the current drop where we have zombie Nautiluses and where we have the Camel Husk and the Posh, but also from the Happy Gas coming out, and before that even the Breeze. The last year and a half has had a bunch of mob variants, and so are you wondering what is going to be next? Well, normal accounts seems to think that obviously now that all zombies have skeleton variants, it's only a matter of time until we get a zombie variant of the Bogged. This makes sense, and on the surface, sure, if we were going to be getting frozen zombies, then you should expect to see some bogged zombies too. However, it does make the false case that there's a skeleton for every type of zombie. There is not a skeleton zombie villager, or skeleton villager I guess, and there is not a skeleton drowned yet, and so technically there isn't a one-to-one representation, and there's a decent argument that actually variants work better when they aren't perfectly duplicated. It's only the desert really that you see that there is a perfect one-to-one of zombies to skeletons, and should that actually be the case, and indeed if we're just trying to make the desert a scary place, actually should the next mob variant be a creeper? Because Cake Senpai says, I'm not sure this is the general opinion, but I personally really like the mob variants. I would love to see more mobs that will feature as spin-offs as variants to make it in the main game sometime, and this is honestly something I think that Minecraft have changed their stance on. The drop system means there is a very short development period. We just saw the Mounts of Mayhem start literally 3 weeks ago, and now we are seeing it be very close to the end, and so as a result of this weird process, we actually have far less time for them to develop full new features, and so as I'll have to concede, classic Minecraft fans says very cynically, they're just making retextured stuff at this point. The only original features are the Nautilus and the Spear. Creating a Nautilus and Spear update where most players are more excited by variants of the zombie or skeleton I guess, or variants of the camel, is kind of proof as to the fact that Minecraft can work all year on creating some incredible features, but what will really excite people is a very slightly different color to something that already exists, and if you don't believe that, look at Copper Tools. I do think though there is a lot of room for making actually interesting variants, and although we could talk about the Creeper all day long, Susanna Green says so, no Isologer, and I'd argue that might cross the line from being a variant into being a brand new mob, but as UK Zanes Gisko 772972 says, I hope that we get even more mob variants like an Ocean Slime variant, and yeah, basically every early game Minecraft mob is a great example of something that could be turned into a variant, although there is a fun debate about what is early and what is late, and I actually love this Garchumpy1561 comment that puts it perfectly. Guardians are the first of the new mobs, and horses are the last of the old mobs, which is why a zombie horse variant feels good, but having a new variant of the Guardian would feel weird. That's at least my official opinion I'm taking from this random comment. 208 people agree with me though, so how wrong can I really be? But speaking of being wrong about things, I actually, you might recall a couple of Q&A Saturdays ago that I spoke about how this person had, shown off this, camel husk, and how I felt like it was just speculation at this point, and we'd have to wait and see. What's crazy is this wild speculation actually made it into the game, and so I wanted to know, who was it that came up with this? Are they a seer? Can they guess into the future? Or indeed, do they actually have some leaking information that they're sharing as just concept art drawings? Because it looks really accurate, and so I went back to that Q&A, and as you can see right here, it was fairly early on that this came up on screen, and there was a little watermark from Other Goblin, and I looked into it, and they claim it's the 5th time in a row they've managed to guess a new feature, for a Minecraft update, and what do they say it means? Well, something, I guess. So they are just making guesses, they make a lot of fun concept arts for future features, and sometimes they are correct. Sadly, sometimes not, so I will keep that in mind, but I'm just gonna say I'm following them on Twitter now. Speaking of following things on Twitter, I have to quickly mention a little bit of a wild story update, because a couple of weeks ago we made a video talking about how Jeb wouldn't have added the creeper today, and then, interestingly, as part of this, the entire thing blew up. Millions of people saw this and had weird takes on Twitter, and one of those people that saw those takes was Notch himself. And so Notch tweeted out saying, "I've been seeing a lot of Jeb hate over him saying the creeper's only around because it's iconic, and I'd like to set something straight. This was originally one of my opinions." He says he tried to fix it by having it only explode as a result of players' inaction, as he realized random destructive events you have no control over is anti-fun. And so, as he clearly says here, Jeb's getting a lot of hate. This is originally one of my opinions. I decided to tweet, maybe foolishly so, update, Notch wouldn't have added the creeper today, and then I went to bed and I was scrolling Reddit the next morning, and I find this on the RIBX Toycat subreddit, Toycat versus Notch, and I was like, wait a minute, what? Notch responded to this tweet saying, "The creeper was a mistake. It's not like I sat down and designed it on purpose. I was trying to make a pig, but failed. So of course I made it explode. If the same circumstances happened today, I absolutely would add it. You're injecting new words into what was quoted." And so I wanted to share all of that directly because I was quite confused by this, and so I want to kind of just say that from my perspective, Notch had said very clearly, like, yes, there's a lot of hate for Jeb around saying he wouldn't have added the creeper today. This is my opinion, and so blah, 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 blah. But instead he's saying, no, the creeper was a mistake. The only reason he wouldn't add it today is because it was a mistake. He was trying to make a pig and failed, and if the same circumstances happened today, he absolutely would add it. In other words, saying that there's a lot of hate for Jeb over this, but actually I disagree with Jeb. I'm just sharing the same opinion. Here's the interesting thing, actually. My entire point that I've made many times is that as Minecraft has become a giant game, the room for experimentation has gotten slightly less. You now have to come up with ideas that are broadly popular, not just to you because you're having fun as a developer, but also to an entire team, and it seems as though Notch said basically the opposite, that actually he wouldn't have done this today anyway, just like how Jeb wouldn't have, but actually he's coming out later and saying, yeah, if I sit down to make a pig and then accidentally don't make a pig, I'll make it explode and I'll just make sure that it's balanced to the player for some way, and I think that's really, really interesting, but I want to know if you all take it that way, or if I am wrong. I'm willing to concede I might be incorrect about this, but it does feel like Notch is either misunderstanding what Jeb's quote was all about, or what his own backing said here, which is slightly confusing to me. Speaking of slightly confusing to me, I want to talk about the creeper, because everyone has made this point that, like, yeah, actually the creeper is unfair, that you can have a big explosion and it's not your fault, but Nevertaker has a really good response to this, which is another point they'd say in favor of the creeper, is that in a game about building, a creature that destroys is more or less the perfect enemy. The dynamic is more fitting than enemies that just try to kill you, because Minecraft isn't a game that's primarily about combat. That's right, having in a game that's about building and survival, having a mob that can mess up your building is something that is actually, it has real detriment to the things you care about, not just your life. And I know it seems silly to say you don't care about your life in Minecraft, but effectively you don't need to. Speaking about not caring about Minecraft, that is what the most recent Minecraft update seems to do. Not only does it have the problem where if you go to install it, it might delete your world because there's no update button that you might find. Not only has there been the issue that after it came out, Azure went down, and so Character Creator, the marketplace, and skins all got reset and everything was down, including my Let's Play world for some time. But even worse than that is the update has come out and it seems as though it's got a couple of big problems. Uncle Sam Build says, what the heck is happening? Is my RAM use going crazy? I'm just on the darn menu. This is also something that I saw on the subreddit. Is people having really bad lag after the update? And yes, this is true. I played my Let's Play world and it was unbearably laggy the first time I loaded it up, and even the second time I loaded it up and went to a new area, everything got a little bit slow. You can see right here, it's just a bit uncomfortable. This is just an issue the first few times you load it up. You can restart Minecraft and it should go away, but basically Minecraft released a beta update without actually fixing the bugs in it, and one of the most bizarre ones is the fact that, as Frogmouth2 says, you can't easily see who's on your world at a given moment anymore, and that's half of the reason they ever open the menu, which is just even, again, I can't stress this enough. It's such a weird decision to make this browse add-ons button so huge, to make it so that the buy option is so big, but then also to remove one of the big reasons you might be there, and to make the settings menu, the big reason to pause, even smaller. I think Minecraft accidentally released an update before it was ready, and I don't know if anyone even knows that it is out there actively doing harm in the wild, and I think that's a real shame personally, but again, this is, I think one of the interesting things about a big company is not just that lots of ideas have to make their way through a lot of people, but it means that, like, because no one person is taking ownership, when something big happens, then what is the end result? Well, it seems as though, in some cases, a broken update that might delete your worlds, that doesn't let you see people, and that which also has horrific RAM usage issues, at least on PC. Speaking of PC, by the way, now all this talk about PC Minecraft having issues has reminded me of the golden age of Minecraft, and I got this great comment an hour ago from Nig Tech Co. Can I say that name with that? I'm just going to say that I can. But they say, even after 11 years, it still works on my PlayStation 3. You're the GOAT. You deserve a sub. And what's crazy is, yeah, they commented on an 11-year-old video. And one of the fun things about the console editions of Minecraft being discontinued is all of those old tutorials actually will work. Whereas if you try to follow my How to Find Diamonds on PS3 tutorial, you'll probably find that my voice is terrible and that my getting to the point is far less than it is today. My thumbnail design is terrible. My video editing is awful. But as well as all of those things, you'll find out that it won't work because mining at Y13 is not effective, but it will work on the PlayStation 3, which at least one person enjoys, and that's not just me. So we also have N-Night-D responding to another kind of YouTube meta question here, which is, after this ABCD question testing, what will it do to future videos? I mean, will thumbnails and titles keep changing in the future? So a channel that I quite like is called CGP Grey, and actually the answer is yes, their channel is changing all the time. Every single time I get recommended one of their videos, their titles or their thumbnails is different, and this is something that is a fair thing on a platform where ultimately the company is deciding when your videos get seen. You have to give it the best odds you possibly can, and if that means coming up with a slightly more attractive title, then so be it. I've done this for a couple of older videos, and most of the time it doesn't work, but about 1 in 10 times an old video will get a bunch of traction because the new title is that much more, clickable or intriguing, or the new thumbnail is that much clearer about what is inside of the video. And so ultimately I think that as YouTube is a platform where you don't independently go back through a artist's catalog, through a channel backlog and look at the old videos. Some people do this, but it is the absolute minority. There are like 3 views a day on my oldest Let's Play episodes, which show that even with all of the playlist links and even with all of the channel links, not many people watch a lot of those old pieces of content willingly, or at least let's say not off the cuff of their own decision. But if YouTube recommends it, it can start to get hundreds or thousands of views a day, which is kind of the sign that, yeah, you are not trying to appease your audience, you're trying to appease the algorithm. If people were going back to watch old videos and they didn't like that the titles were changing, then there would be a huge interest as a creator to never change those old titles. And if I'm being honest, for 99% of my videos, I don't do it out of ease and out of that preservation instinct. But if you are trying to get the best for your old catalog, technically that is the correct thing to do. And it's a weird world, and in my opinion, a bit of a shame, because I think one of the big things about releasing a piece of work on YouTube, something you're really proud of, is meant to be this fact that, like, yeah, it will be there for years and it might get views for years if people want to see it, but actually it seems as though, like, after the first month, YouTube, like, puts your video into some bin of, like, well, I guess if people are really looking for nostalgia or have never heard of you before, maybe they could go looking in there. But I don't think this is how it should work, on lots of levels, but it is how it does work, and so I just so you know why I do what I do, that is the logic around it. But that's kind of a meta discussion about, like, how sometimes the systems we are in entirely change the behavior that we independently have. It's the same way that if you're running and you're desperately out of breath and you really, really just want to start walking and give up on it, and someone cheers, you go, oh, and you find this new your surge of energy. Or it's like how if you're in a room full of people that are better than you, this strive to do better can encourage you to do different things. The same thing is true for Mojang as a whole. When there is just 3 people in a room, your behaviors are going to be different when there's 30 people in a room all trying to come up with the same numbers of features, as Mojang is discovering. And I think this is a useful thing to remind yourself in life, that you are kind of, as much as you want to believe you're a fully independent person, you are a product of not just your heritage and your own beliefs, but you're a product of the environments around you, and that is something that you technically and actually can change to some extent, and so it might be worth doing it if it goes terribly. But what do I know? I'm just an internet cat. I am sharing this opinion only because I am surrounded by a microphone. Maybe if I was in the woods, I wouldn't be talking loudly about this, but what is for sure is that I hope that you change your environment of what video is coming up next, because if you like this one, like, favorite, subscribe, and all that noise, and I'll see you in the next one, or will I? Only you get to decide. Goodbye.